you know. All right, and we oral language cannot be sort of understated. The importance, it's even written in the TEKS, into the TEKS. Now, these are the standards for ELAR, EC through 6. And remember, much of this is STR, and we'll look at it. STR doesn't give us a whole bunch as far as like what their standards are, because their standards are these particulars in English language arts and reading. Oral language is so important, and teachers of young students need to understand the importance of oral language. Like, I had a teacher yesterday, she's an intern, and she's also trying to pass the STR. And she was talking about how, because she attends my classes and is doing the PPR stuff too, and how I say, I'll have them talking, obviously not just about nothing, create opportunities. That's what the planning and assessing this for, to see what they need, and then create opportunities for them to talk, utilizing the language and including things that they find interesting, practicing and practicing and practicing, developing their oral language proficiency, their ability to listen and speak, listen for meaning, listen for nuance, listen for lots of things, double meanings, whatever. Their oral language proficiency. A student's ability to speak in any situation is invaluable to them. They can say, oh, Miss Sauceda, I didn't understand that example that you just gave. Like, the first example I understood and now I'm lost. But they have that, and they have the sort of confidence as a speaker, because they know my voice is not only allowed, it's wanted here. It's a place to practice. And we still have teachers saying, no, shush, I want a quiet classroom. One of my own students, she says, I let them talk, Miss Sauceda. I let them, I give them questions, I put them in groups, and sometimes they, they're kindergartners and I said, no, you're doing the right thing. You are teaching them that what they have to say is important and getting them to do it. But some of the older teachers that are, working with her are like, oh yeah, your students talk a lot, they're very talkative. And she says, yes, I like for them to practice their language, but she says it's not like just off topic kind of discussions. But I think it's great. And the importance of them, if you teach them in kinder and pre-K, no talking, you're training them, and you think they're automatically going to start talking in first grade, like, oh, la la la, my thoughts and feelings are important. No, somebody spent 2 years shushing them, and now they're shushed. And we can't have them be shushed. We need them to speak for themselves and be advocates and to be part of this learning experience, and to tell us what they're thinking, and to understand that their thoughts, that their experiences, that their interests, they're all valid and important, and strengths, right? A different perspective for us to learn and come at something with. So we need our students to talk. We need them to talk. So this is all about getting them to build on the students' cultural, linguistic, and home backgrounds to enhance their oral language development. Use what you know about their culture. Use what you know about where they are linguistically. Where are they? Are they, very low on oral language proficiency, what we would call like an intermediate or type student? ELL, their home backgrounds, are they not practicing English at home? If that's the case, we need to uber engage them while they're in class. If their parents speak another language, of course they're going to have developmental delays. If we understand the process with which, the developmental process necessary in order for oral language to take place. There is a process. It's just not like la la la, willy-nilly, and then you absorb this language, right? The more you practice, the more it's modeled, the more examples to real world things. My daughter, who is just turned 7, was listening to something her older sister, who is only 8, since she just turned 8 in September, She said something like, I forget what she said. Something was irritated, like something on the puppies was irritated. And what did she say it was? She said, what does that mean, Mom? Is that irritated mean like hurt or like bothered? But because she knew that what was on the puppy was like hurt or bothered, she was able to ascertain what irritated was, and she defined it herself. I said, absolutely. She goes, oh, it's because I didn't know what irritated was. I said, now you do, baby girl, now you know it forever. So now she knows irritated, and she has that picture of the puppy, and I think it was his, private areas that were irritated, because puppies don't pee and poop on their own. If you didn't know that, newborns don't pee and poop on their own, and you have to like stimulate them. And I have 3 of them, and their mom died, who I love very much. I'm getting off topic, but in any event, my 7-year-old learned irritated, and she knows that it in her head, it's like bothered, hurting, sort of swollen, puffy, irritated. Now, because of that real world experience, and she heard her sister using it. Her sister already had access to that language, probably because she heard her 3 older brothers, her 2 older brothers and her older sister talking. So we need them to be talking. I didn't give a lesson on irritated. She just picked it up because she heard people talking, utilizing it. If everybody was silent, everyone would have no language. Like, we would not learn anything. So when I go into a classroom as an administrator and I see everybody working so quietly and the room is all blah, 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 like, I know no one's learning. They're certainly not actively learning language. They're like, there's no way. Maybe you're assessing something. Maybe you're assessing their reading skills. You're assessing something, but nobody is actively learning. Active learning requires speaking and dialogue and examples and involvement of your own personal experience. My daughter gained access to a word because she saw it in real life. She saw irritation, heard her sister use it, made the connection between other words she already had. Boom, now she has irritated. And I guarantee you she won't forget it. And so we have to provide those opportunities. It's not like you're gonna be doing puppies and irritated, but there's ways in which to give the students access by connecting to their culture, to linguistic, their linguistic, like their home language, their home backgrounds, to help with that oral language development. So print out your standards, because I'm going to want for you to take notes on them as you watch both the STR videos and the ELAR videos. And here are the English language arts and reading TEKS, because you also have to look at these. And I believe it is through 3rd grade that STR is absolutely important, like every single one of these. And so you'll see using letter sound relationships to decode, including VC, CVC. So that's vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant, 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 vowel, consonant. So like the word, consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant. And so we can make up words using these, like this, the consonant, vowel, consonant, like is, right? Is, it, in, right? At. So, and so on and so forth. It's important for the purposes of the STR that you're really familiar with these areas, kindergarten through 3rd grade, the ways in which we work on language, like the things that you do. A is first. And this one, all of these, A, and then subsequently under A, this is all phonological awareness, right? This is all phonological awareness. Identifying and producing rhyming words. Sat, bat, mat, cat. It's important for them to do that. Important for them to know that those are all the same, like sort of sounding. And all we did was change one letter in the front. And in 1st grade, you can do that and play a game and put, have the students, you're not 1st graders, you can even do it with kindergarten, like in 2nd year. So like, b, ah, And so this is the onset, and everything with the vowel, the first vowel after is the rhyme. And so if we just substituted the B sound for the sound, what do we have, students? Like if we delete or substitute B for K, what do we have? Let's say it. Cat, splendid, cat. So, and they get to play around with it, and then they have access to it. Like, oh, I recognize this pattern. We're trying to give them sets and groupings and patterns to linguistically map their brain in order to be better able to decode later words. And you know, this word a little bit, it comes out in other words, right? Categorize, right? The word cat is in there. So getting them to really understand those early parts, but it's important for you to understand, for the purposes of the STR, the way in which we do it. Like, we don't start off blending syllables to form multi-syllabic words. We don't start off there. We're gonna start off with identifying and producing rhyming words. Let me clear all drawings and put this away for a second. And this is for kindergarten. Here we see in the TEKS, oral language proficiency holds a pivotal role in school success. It's pivotal. It is in every class. If you can speak and articulate what I need, what I didn't understand from what you just said, if you don't understand any of it, then it's all nothing, right? But if you are able to understand most of it and then articulate the parts that you didn't understand, that's invaluable. And that's what oral language proficiency does. The example I just gave with my daughter and the word irritated is an example. We were just riding in the car and having a conversation. It wasn't like we were at the chalkboard or anything like that. And she just heard Zuri saying a word and then said, oh, does that word, what is that word? Does it mean this? Because, you know, and I said, absolutely, that's absolutely what it meant, you know, good job. But she had that oral language proficiency to ask and to be listening and to understand and know. And so that is invaluable, because she can ask about math and science and social studies and art and question and, you know, feel comfortable, that comfort and confidence, because she is practiced and proficient in both listening and speaking, is important. So in order for students to become thinkers and proficient speakers in science, social studies, math, fine arts, language arts and reading, career and technical education, just in life in general, they must have multiple, many, myriad, manifolds, like many, millions of opportunities to practice and apply the language that they're learning and the skills in each discipline, to talk about the things that they are doing. A quiet classroom is not a classroom that is being engaged in instruction of any sort of language, linguistically. Certainly oral language proficiency skills are going to be on the lower end, and we don't want that. We don't want teachers who are training their students to remain silent in their whole class year, and then they get to another class and they feel uncomfortable or not confident and not practicing those words, not having an opportunity to say them and practice them and sort of speak them out organically if they want to. It's going to stunt, even if you did do an excellent direct instruction of that vocabulary word. I don't care how great it was. You don't let them talk about it and use it and give them things where they see it in the reading and then ask them questions about it, then it's not going to be their own. You have to let them talk. The power of, I mean, it's just so silly to think that students can become proficient in listening and speaking without letting them listen and speak to each other. Now that means that you have to have other things in place as well. In my classroom, I would always have to say, okay, guys, because I taught high school for a very long time. And I would say, guys, inside voices, like, I know you've been to the library before. everybody's talking about or debating their side, but people need to hear each other. So I need for you to be, in your inside to your partner, to have them really be talking about things and not get too chaotic. But you don't want a quiet classroom. That's preposterous. And that is like old school, not really understanding. And it's even like disingenuous to say old school, because if you go all the way back to the oldest of schools and scholars, to like Socrates and Plato, all they did was sit around and listen and talk to the mentors. That's it. They listened and they talked and they dialogued and they said their points. It was all about the talking. You cannot take that out of it. It's like just preposterous to even try. So talk, especially in the science of teaching reading, especially in English language arts. But it's important for every single one of them, to be honest with you. Math, science, social studies, you need to be having the students utilize that language that you're teaching them in the science class, in social studies, in fine arts class. Okay, let's go to so here is the science of teaching reading, and you need to know this also, Marina, because remember, this is just a deep dive into English language arts and reading standards. That's all it is. So here are the stages of reading development. Actually, I think I have these, like a video of me talking about these in the STR. So if you'll go watch that, that would be great. That way I could get through a little bit of it. I watched my daughters go through these stages. It was really cool, because when I started actively learning STR, or when it started coming out, I think they were 2 or 3 at the time. And so when they were in preschool, I was actually, doing the science of teaching reading program, the letters program. And I could see them going through in preschool their different spelling stages, the way in which they formulated their speech in writing. And so pre-communicative, you'll have maybe letters all over the place, and it's meant to stand for something. And I'll show you a picture right now, because there's some really great pictures. And maybe see if there's any on Pinterest, the stages. Let me see if I can find a good one with the picture. Oh, here we are. Okay. So pre-communicative, and this is sort of disingenuous again, because like they won't just write it in a straight line from left to right. Pre-communicative. I'm sorry, let me just try to. Okay. Pre-communicative is going to be sort of all over the place. Like they might have an L up here, an R down there, a Z down there, a B in the middle, the T in the end, and they might have start from from left to right, instead of actually from right to left. So then you see them to like get a little bit better with the sort of semi-phonetic. Preschool and early kindergarten students, they begin to understand that letters stand for specific sounds. So we have the letters and specific sounds. So it's like basically maybe what I'm hearing. Spellers at this stage often use single letters to represent words, right? Or sounds or syllables that they and might use either the first sound in the word to represent the word, like M for mommy, U for you. A semi-phonetic speller may write I and then M HP for I am happy, right? That's semi-phonetic, and that's preschool and like early kinder when they first enter kinder. They're going to be semi-phonetic. But you might have some being pre-communicative in early preschool and early kindergarten. You know, you might get them at this, or you might get them here when they come in kindergarten. You know, like I think that my daughter, the smallest one, came in there because her older sister was doing homework and she's watching her doing it right before her. And even when she was in COVID, during COVID, and her older sister was in kinder, she watched at home all the lessons. So I'm sure some of it was gleaned on and she practiced. And you're going to get different skill levels, which is why it's not an easy peasy lemon squeezy task. These children are all at different levels, all have different needs, different backgrounds, different interests and ways of reaching and sort of accessing prior knowledge to connect to new knowledge. And you have to be knowledgeable enough of your students to be able to create lessons like that. Where are they and what do they like, so I can make it interesting for them and engage them. So then you have the phonetic stage, which is late kindergarten and early first grade. And then your phonetic is going to be really close to almost, you know, the way that it sounds. I like lick dogs. So late kindergarten and early first grade students use a letter or a group of letters to represent each sound that they hear in the word. In many cases, their spelling will not be standard, right? But their choice of letters will make sense. Like you'll be a phonetic, you can phonetically understand, right? Many simple consonant, vowel, consonant words may be spelled correctly at this stage. For example, like rat or cat or hit. Like that, this is the stage that my you know, early first grader is at. Actually, I think she's more at the conventional where she's better and starting to spell things like this. I'm trying to move her up to this stage. So for example, words like rat and hit are likely to be spelled correctly, but you might see fawn for phone, F-O-N for phone, and U-V for of, or K-A-K for cake. A phonetic speller, I mean, there's spelling by sound. A phoneme is sound, so a phonetic speller is a sound speller. And a semi-phonetic is like semi-sound, like they're semi getting the sounds. They're not getting all the sounds. I didn't include it. Maybe they don't have access to the graphemes and that knowledge of individual morphemic awareness. But it's apparent that the phonetic students do have access to more knowledge of more sounds, right? Their individual speech sounds. They were able to identify more of them in the writing. Then we have transitional. And so that's first grade students are learning to recognize common patterns. So we need to make them recognize common patterns. And let me tell you something. English is not an easy language. It's not a predictive language. There are rules where you're like I before E, except after C in this way. And this is every sound letter has a sound except for the E in love or in dove or in have or in give, you know? So we have to make sure that the students have predictability and patterns laid out in their brain to be better able to navigate some of the unknown words that they'll come, you know, more increasingly into contact with as their reading becomes more nuanced and more challenging. And as you go through the English language arts and reading TEKS, and as someone who was ELAR 4 through 8 and 7 through 12, I know that every year we increase in complexity with reading, for vocabulary, for theme, for connection to societal things. You know what I mean? I'm talking about like more sort of thought-provoking themes and motifs. So the students need to have as much predictability, as much stability in recognizing common patterns and structures so that they can utilize them later on in decoding. And they begin to use those patterns in their writing. Once they begin to recognize those common patterns, and you'll see it if they're getting great instruction, a lot of good activity to play with the patterns, to identify the patterns in readings that they are currently reading, because we want to do everything in context, right? In context, learning words, learning patterns in context, in the context of what we're already learning and reading. For example, students learn that adding E to the end of a word usually changes a vowel to a long vowel, and they apply the rule to many words. They might spell mate and take correctly after learning this rule, but they might also write night and wait. Students also experiment with less common patterns like IAH. A transitional speller might write the word height as height at HIAHKED. They're hearing more of the nuanced phoneme in there, and they know more about like paired or like vowel teams, which is something in your TEKS that you have to learn. The students have to learn about vowel teams. It's one of the patterns, right? And we'll see them, or you can see them in let me see. Oh, we're already looking at it. And then it doesn't show you the conventional, but conventional is just like all good. All the spellings normal and conventional. So now that I showed you those, here's the classroom application, which is really important for the exam. It's not just enough for you to know what level is this, what stage of spelling are they at. It's important. How can you help them move from pre-communicative to semi-phonetic? There are things that you need to be doing in order for that to take place. So let's begin again with pre-communicative. And remember, this is preschool and early kindergarten students. So they're going to be 5 and 6 years old. Teachers will be helping students learn the alphabet, the alphabetic principle, the alphabet. Learn the connection between letters, sounds and letters. So the phonemes and the graphemes. Sounds are phonemes, graphemes are letters. Understand that in English.
A quick question, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Not at all. Interrupt all you want. I want you to interrupt.
I'm curious, is this available in the drive? Because I think one of my biggest failures during my exam was the actual application of all these little verbiage that we have here. And
absolutely. So it's not in the drive, but I will send it to you via email.
thank you.
Yes, I will share it to you via email. And also with you, Marina, because it's like I said to you, this is stuff we do in English language arts. Science of teaching reading happens in kindergarten in your ELAR classes, right? There is overlap. It's just you giving this exam forces us to take a clear look, a more focused, structured application of the existing TEKS, and really a sort of like invigoration of the importance of this early building block, because this early building block of their ability to speak proficiently and access to becoming a proficient reader, it is a make or break thing in any content area, no matter what you want to do. You want to be an entrepreneur, your oral language proficiency, I guarantee you, is make or break. Your reading ability, your ability to communicate, it's going to be make or break. So we need the kids to be proficient, which is why everybody sort of had to get retaught. Everyone that was already in EC through 6, they had to take a reading academies, these reading academies where they learned all about the science of teaching reading and how they needed to refocus on things they already knew and were doing, but apply them in a different way and do different things at different times and make sure that we are giving enough practice and that our kindergarten classrooms are not silent factories, that's not a good, they're not learning oral language proficiency if it's a quiet classroom. I'm sorry, maybe you get an A for like, I don't even know for what, for classroom management, but even then you're not getting an A in my book. If I go in there and your kids are talking to each other in a hushed voices, then you get an A in classroom management because you taught little kids to be mindful of their voices. You know what I'm saying? Like a quiet classroom wins you no points with me because I know no learning is taking place. So understand that in English, we read from top to bottom. So like I told you, that picture was sort of disingenuous because a kid that is pre-communicative, the letters are going to be everywhere and they're not even going to be really letters and they're going to be going in the wrong direction. Sometimes you'll see them writing in the wrong direction. So that instruction and that knowledge that, reading. And so you have to show them, that, reading. And I'm just gonna, I have three triplet puppies, orphaned puppies that just turned 2 weeks, thankfully, on Sunday. And so I'm a shell of myself and my house is a mess. But so if you're in kindergarten, you are reading them books, not this book because it's too hard, one with like smaller groupings of words, but you're showing them how we read and how the words are working and that each word represents something that I'm saying. They're learning from this. And when they see it, they know this. And then when we're writing, we say this, and you correct them when they're doing it the wrong way. So I'm going to go away again. But it's modeling, just like the students and our own children learn at home from us, right? We model to them. For example, the teacher might read a story from a big book with the class, and as the class reads, the teacher might pause to talk about particular words and letters in them. And he or she might point to each word as they read it to enforce the words that go left to right and from top to bottom. We're showing them, teaching them that this is the way that our language works. It has to be taught. It's not like it's taught automatically. There are other languages that write from from right to left, are they not? Other languages, and there's other phonemes. And so we know it doesn't come mapped out automatically. It must be taught. Your semi-phonetic students. Semi-phonetic, that means they halfway or half sounds. In their writing, you're going to get half of the sounds. It's not going to be whole words. I mean, phonetic is like they got most of the sounds, except for like the common patterns. Like for the word like, they might leave off the E because it doesn't make a sound, right? And if they just don't know that automatically from their sight words or whatever, once they get it, and it's there forever. But it must be taught, that rule, that some of them are silent and that sometimes English is sneaky, and that when you have a vowel add an E to the end, it creates a long, it like pulls the hair and they're like, yow. And there's different ways to making them understand the patterns that we have. So students are ready to be introduced to word families at this phonetic stage. This is where we're doing those word families, like I said, the rhyming, like bat, rat, cat, sat. We want them to get as many of those word families, those spelling patterns, and have access to spell ever more challenging words. So spelling patterns, phonics, and word structures, the vowel consonant structures, the vowel consonant vowel, the consonant vowel consonant structures and getting them to understand those and see those and recognize when they're reading one, even if it's an unknown for them. And so I'm going to make this big again. I'm just going to look at the, let's see, I'm going to do word patterns. That's too kindergarten. Pinterest is one of the best sort of resource for finding really cool ways for you to do activities. And for the STR, Carlos, this is where I want for you to find and already have ready at the ready that instructional strategy that you would do in order to like help build the students' knowledge in word family, or help build the students' morphemic analysis, or help build the students' phonetic analysis, right? After you assess, because in the STR, as you well know, you will be given pieces of evidence from a student, right? That you will have to assess for an area of weakness in those foundational reading skills. And there is a set number of them. And so what you need to do is first and foremost, understand what sort of activities we do in those fundamentals of foundational, foundations of reading skills. And then an activity, a tangible activity that you can do with the students in order to help them like this. This is really cool. These missing sound words, like they can go and put missing sound reading games. Having a child learning to read, try this missing sounds reading activity to work on decoding skills, a hands-on phonetics-based reading game. And this is fun, and they'll remember this. They'll remember this because their body and brain is moving and thinking at the same time. And that's what's needed in order to create that neurological pathway, right? That pathway in the brain.
Yeah, and so that's what I was, I like this idea of using it for that the essay part, because that's where I bombed, and I could think of very few things. I've been involved in special education since I started my educational career, so using, having ideas in the regular setting is kind of like a very foreign concept to me at the moment.
Right.
This helps a lot.
Right. So yeah, you have to go in there with a plan of attack, right? So for your, and I'm just going to bring it up first really quickly so you can see it. And there is an interactive exam. It's $10, and I would like for you to, to take that. Here it is, a constructed response question. I'd like for you to take that before you get, after you're done studying, before you want to attempt it, I'd like for you to attempt that to see where you are. But you're going to see here, it shows you, it tells you explicitly, and again, Marina, this is important for you too, because you'll be doing these in ELAR reading. Foundational reading skills. So one of the first things that you need to do is identify one significant need, a need of your student, a foundational reading skill need that you see that is not where it needs to be, and that therefore is affecting comprehension or movement upward. So phonemic awareness skills, you need to have an activity for phonemic awareness. We just looked up one for phonetic skills, didn't we? The wall activity, the game on the wall where they go and they're putting that was a phonetic skill game. recognition of high frequency words. So a way of skill or strategy, an activity to help them build recognition of high frequency words, and write it down, do a description of it and write it down. And you want to talk about it in ways that they like, and you're not going to be, I don't want you to memorize it. You write it down, you'll have access to it later on. Syllabication skills, morphemic analysis skills, automicity. Automicity is the ability to sort of like automatically know what a word is and not have to sound it out. And the more that our high frequency words become automatic, the less we stutter, the more fluent we get, the less pauses. Reading fluency, which is accuracy, rate, and prosody. Okay, you have to cite specific exhibits. They give you many exhibits. An exhibit is a piece of evidence, a different piece of evidence showing what they're needing or how they're struggling. So they want for you to cite specific evidence from the exhibits. Okay, you must. And they tell you which ones particularly. The word reading assessment, the passage reading assessment, and fluency data. So how important is it for you to look up those assessments and to know what they're all about? Those particular three. It's incredibly important. So that's only the first leg of what you have to do. That part of it, I want for you to prepare for it beforehand, right? I want for you to prepare for this portion here, because these two go together here. Oh, hold on one second. All right, sorry guys, I was responding to a student. So second part of this, once you identify the need, and what you need to do beforehand is find one activity that you love for phonemic awareness that hits all the spots, right? That's good because it is going to support or address. We need one effective, just one effective, appropriate instructional strategy that would address the need you identified, the one you set up here in the foundational reading skills. So whether it be phonemic awareness, don't say more than one. Don't say the student needs morphemic analysis and phonemic awareness. No, don't do all that. Just choose one, provide multiple examples, one from the word reading assessment, one from the passage reading assessment, and if you can, one from the fluency data to support your identification of that skill that is lacking. And then easy peasy lemon squeezy, describe the strategy that you already have in your brain, but you're going to really want to sort of fluff it up and make sure you're showing how it is going to work for everyone, how it's differentiates instruction, helping those that are, tactile, kinesthetic learners, visual learners, and able to transfer that into their reading skills later. So you want to do this before you walk in. If you don't do this before you go into the to take the exam, you aren't going to do well. If you haven't already thought of these things in this sort of like very systematic way, where I went and identified an activity for each of these foundational reading skills that my students need to gain reading skills in. So, I mean, if I were you, I'd have a couple of them that you really like in your mind. But if you want to not overload it, just do one. You're gonna have to also do it with vocabulary knowledge, grammatical structure, application of literal, inferential, and evaluative comprehension skills. And that's what one of the things that's important, like inferencing skills is hard for students. Sometimes they take it just literal and there's no inferring on anything. And then a student that has high oral language proficiency is going to be able to infer much better in their reading than someone who has low oral language proficiency. So it matters so much. Use of comprehension skills. This is for the second leg of the written portion. Application of text analysis skills to literary or information text. So the text analysis skills, we know that there are particular things, sort of characteristics in cause and effect papers, right? Expository text, right? There's a certain verbiage that we find there. There is a certain pattern of structure in particular pieces for particular purposes. So getting them to apply that knowledge when they're analyzing text, giving them that, that leg up on their understanding, citing specific evidence from the exhibits. Again, there's exhibits, particularly comprehension assessment, because this one is all about reading comprehension. Comprehension is just a fancy word for understanding. Did they understand what they read? And they won't understand what they read if they don't have good vocabulary knowledge and they don't have a way of deciphering unfamiliar words, decoding new and or unfamiliar words, right? They're just not going to understand. It's a reason why I always define more words than the textbook or the publisher identified when I have a lot of ELL students. Based on what I know of their language proficiency, I'm going to have to define some more words, or else reading comprehension is not going to take place at all. They're not going to understand it. And maybe some of my native English speakers, that's even the case for. So vocabulary knowledge, very important. Knowledge of sentence structure, grammatical structure, important for the students to understand. The flow of grammatical structures. Applying of literal, inferential, and evaluative comprehension skills. Understanding, asking yourself, is that really what they meant? Did they really mean that they wanted for their sister to go to a new family because she annoyed them? No, she didn't mean that. She was just mad. She loves her because they're always friends and they always play together. And just because, and so having them infer, that's not, even though that's what she said, that's not what she means. She loves, that's an inferencing skill. Those evaluative comprehension skills, they need to be practiced. And there's activities that we can do with them. So you must look them up and have the one that you love the most favorite, ready at the to go, and mark it set go in your brain. So really sort of right here, explain why each instructional strategy or activity you describe would be effective in addressing the needs you identified and helping the students achieve grade level reading standards as described in the TEKS for ELAR. So the TEKS for ELAR are your goals, your reading goals. The reading goals in ELAR is the same goals for science of teaching reading. And so your analysis also of your TEKS, sorry, I was doing high school. Oh, never mind. Your analysis of your TEKS, very important. Very, very important. Beginning reading and writing, we don't jump to like, oh, let's start reading words. We start with demonstrating phonological awareness by beginning doing these things in kinder. Then in first grade, it's different. So here's for oral language. This is what we do to build up oral language. This is beginning reading and writing. And we're going to, again, have them demonstrate, continue demonstration of phonetic awareness, producing a series of rhyming words, recognizes spoken alliteration or groups of words that begin with the same spoken onset or initial sound. And it's funny, I can tell when my kids are doing this. This is first grade. My daughter's in first grade. She came home one day and I said something and she said, "Hey, that's alliteration." And I'm like, "Absolutely it is." Obviously they were hitting that at some point and she got it. So getting them to play with different words and see alliteration just in spoken sound. Like, we say alliteration words all the time just by accident, and having them recognize it or having them play with it. So this is for your beginning reading. This is developing a vocabulary, right? The specific area of vocabulary. So use a resource such as a picture dictionary or digital dictionary to find words. Use illustration and text. The student is able to read or hear to learn or clarify word meaning. Identify the meanings of words using affixes, S, ED, and ING. And identify the use and use words and name actions, directions, positions, sequences, categories, and location. So here's a way for fluency and grade level text. There's not anything specific, no independent, because but we're here for metacognitive uses to develop and deepen comprehension. These are the TEKS that they're referring to, that you need to make sure whatever activity you're choosing is helping them in one of these areas or many of these areas, because the nature of English language arts and reading, which is the listening, speaking, reading, and writing of the English language, it's interconnected. So we don't do anything in isolation. We're talking, we're reading, we're writing every day, listening, speaking, reading, writing, and thinking all the time, every day with everything. So you'll be doing multiple TEKS, listening, speaking, you might be hitting 5 or 6 of them in a lesson, and that's perfect and fine. But you need to be sort of targeted about the things and ways that you're trying to build using your knowledge of the students and what they most need. So for the purposes of your exam, using those pieces of evidence to identify the, what TEK or area, what knowledge and skill are they lacking, right? Are they lacking the ability to make and correct or confirm predictions using text features, characteristics of a genre or structures with adult assistance? If they are, then we need to help them make and correct or confirm predictions so they can say, "Oh, I know what's going to happen. This is because of this, because look at the cause and effect words." But they wouldn't do that in first grade. But or looking at the text features, the picture showing me this, the title is about this, so I think the story is going to be about puppies. Getting them to think and make connections and understand the text and patterns. Metacognitive skills, thinking about your thinking. I'm going to upload, like I said, a video EC through 6, and I think it's ELAR, or the one that, no, actually, you know what, it's ELAR, but I did a very deep dive on metacognition, like super deep dive on what it is. It's us thinking about our thinking, and we have to train our brain to do that. And while you do your deep dives of the TEKS, which you absolutely have to do, you have to do a deep dive of your TEKS. That means starting in kindergarten and going through each one. Now, luckily, everything up until where it says knowledge and skills here, so from here to here, it's all the same over and over again. It's the same sort of overarching goals for English language arts and reading, the same 7 strands that we're going to be continually building in. And in each of the strands, we are practicing listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So one of the strands is developing and sustaining foundational language skills. Another one is comprehension. Another one is response. Another one is multiple genres. Another one is author's purpose and craft. Another one is composition. Another one is inquiry and research. But in each of these 7 strands that are consistent throughout the grade levels, we are always building our listening, speaking, reading, and writing abilities while doing that subject. Learning to decode and encode. Decoding is internalized when tactile and kinesthetic opportunities encoding are provided, which is why the best answers for the tests are going to come from Pinterest. You're going to provide you with tactile. Let me do morphemic analysis. Morphemic analysis activities. So really great way for them to play with words, build words. You can even have them build like sort of nonsensical words. This is a really great one for sentence. Slide a silly sentence. Pronoun, adjective, noun, verb, noun. And so they have to look and make it make sense or make it a silly one. Look at this. Breaking it into parts. Great to use with students who are struggling with contractions. The students love it. Okay. Easy peasy lemon squeezy one that you can do. This is phonetics, spelling, phonemic awareness, and they have to punch out the letters F, U, N. You see, but there is better ones here. Slider word game. Oh, here it is. These are really great workers to help them learn like family in kindergarten and first grade word families. Word work. Let me see. What did I look up? Morphemic analysis. Here's the building blocks of phonemic awareness. Developing a kinesthetic awareness of sounds. What is your mouth doing? What do your lips do? Can you feel the air coming out? So really understanding blending words into a compound with an auditory prompt, blending the words rainbow into rainbow. So there's so much here for you. The big 5 for reading: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, comprehension, vocabulary. This is a later grades activity you could do with them, 3rd grade even, but I like the tactile ones better. Oh, look, here's a cheat sheet. I'm gonna have to purchase this and see if it's good. But phonemic awareness skills are the building blocks and the future reading success. They really are. They have to be able to understand and play with the words. There has to be a meta-linguistic map of things they've said and done and read and known and patterns in order for that to carry on later. So it's your phonemic awareness is your ability to segment and manipulate sounds and word parts and understand it for meaning. Here are skills that they have to gain in reading. I'm actually going to save that to science of teaching reading, listening, right? They need listening, speaking, alliteration, blending, segmentation, rhyming, and finding the syllables. These are kinder and sort of preschool skills. Here is the order of teaching phonics, the way, the patterns that we use: beginning blends, then digraphs, then controlled words, vowel teams. Remember, I spoke about vowel teams. Gonna also place that in the science of teaching reading. I have a science of teaching reading board and an ELAR board as well, and a core EC through 6 board. So if you want to take a look at those, you certainly should. All right, so here are diphthongs. Diphthongs. Two of the what is it? Oh no, it's two graphemes that make one phoneme, one speech sound, right? And then you have digraphs. Many kids can't successfully decode and encode, read, or spell until they understand these higher level concepts. The problem is that many teachers never really had explicit instruction in phonics themselves. As a result, they give sort of ambiguous lessons, and we need them to play around with these and understand the diphthongs and the digraphs and to sort of identify them. It's not such a hard word that they'll have fun saying it. And once you teach it to them, they'll know what it is. And so let's take a look at vowel teams. I think I looked at those yesterday. If vowel teams anchor chart. Bait. They're vowel teams, 2 of them together to make a sound. But let's look at vowel team activities. When you're searching for a vowel team activity, look, this one was fun and it has a ball, so they get to toss it. I'm saving it. You want to give them something tactile, something fun. Their brain will remember it better if it's connected to motion and all this, connection to an experience, thinking. And so I'm not going to read all of this, but the lady who made this is director, let me see, cheers, author, illustrator, and publisher of multi-sensory educational materials at Good Sensory Learning and Dyslexia Materials. She's like the director of some place, and I would assume is a scholar in her field. So tactile, engaging, getting the students to become more proficient with a tricky part of English learning, right? Language learning. I think the other one was R controlled vowel activities. Let's take a look. Go fish without R controlled vowels. Looking for a way to help your reader practice those tricky R controlled vowels. So this is R controlled go fish. Look at this pirate ship for sight words. How fun is that? If your students are not doing well with sight words, you can have them play this game and they'll see it over and over again, and they're looking to see if that word is in fact going to get. What is the other one? It wasn't called pirate ship. What was it called? Battlefield? No, battleship. Okay. Is it real? Like, I don't know what it says on here, but this looks like a low prep something and arm. Trying to see, is it an R controlled Bossy R Uno? This is really cool. Stir, park, nurse, store, fern. So there's a lot of really cool resources. Like I said, the Bossy R dinosaur swords. This is a rule that needs to be taught explicitly, or else students will forever have difficulty and get confused. It will be a source of spelling and reading contention when just practice with it and overview is important. So we have the cat, the k sound at the end of a word with 2 syllables or more ending sounds. Picnic. After a short vowel, duck. After a long vowel and a magic E. So bake. So going over these, making sure that the students are comfortable playing these games with them. Roll and color are controlled vowels. If you roll an AR word, this one you roll, and so this is a fun one too. Let's look at controlled R, controlled anchor charts. So bossy, beware of the bossy R. I boss the vowels and control the sound, but I am polite, so I get to go. So I let them go first. So I let them go first, even though I control the whole sound. So controlled are controlled words. R, erd, or, oral, curl. So car, hard, far, star. You see, all you hear is the R. It's like they're such attention hogs. Art, but they don't come first. Farm, scarf, R, her, cover, water. I'm gonna do a little experiment. You guys keep on reading those controlled R words. So you would go through here and then you would practice. So that the kids understand. Curl, earl, fur, hurt. It's like everything else is like staying behind and letting the big bossy R take all of the attention. So you might see that they have this difficulty. And if they do, then you need an activity to help them for that. So as you're going through your standards, as you're going through the TEKS and doing a deep dive and an analysis, that means defining, making examples of things that you don't have at the ready in your brain, so that you too are doing that tactile thing. It doesn't just work for their brain, it works for your brain too, which is why the annotations are really important. I think that's the Miss Sauceda. Yes, that's fine. Oh, she had to leave. I will let me see, because I know I have another session right now. Let me see. So how are you doing with your studying, Mr. Doherty?
It's going along. I'm right now. I want to start watching the videos, and it's been a while since I've actually studied, anything, graduated over 10, 11 years ago from college.
Right.
But I'm kind of, relearning, and I've kind of figured, right, as listening to you talk to us, I'm moving around the house, kind of like just sweeping up and everything, and I'm listening. And anytime that something grabs my attention, I quickly come back to the screen, and I'm kind of, it clicked to me, but maybe I should, that's how I should watch the videos. I had said that I'd rather read, but I guess I found a good way to engage the content that you have provided for us on YouTube.
Right, absolutely. So just do what you need and listen to it like it's a podcast. If I'm showing an example, you want to see it, which I do many times, you can come and take a look, make notes if you want. And I think that is a good way, of doing stuff. So this is phonetics terms. Phonics. It's so important for our kids to be masterful at playing with language. And it's the same automaticity really that they need for math. You know what I'm saying? Like number sense, and why we want them to have, they should be able to, like, at some point do the simple math things automatically, where they have those almost morphemes, but mathematical morphemes, like word parts, like 4 times 4 is 16, the square root of 16 is 4. Those are morphemes I already have in my brain. I don't have to do that math anymore. My brain is set up for it via practice and engagement and speech and visual sort of explanations of some of the more abstract ideas. And that's what we have to do with our kids. Some of these things are abstract. Oh, there's a controlling R in the word. What does that mean? We have to like show them in a way, and sound in a way, and really illustrate it for them so they understand it and can identify it later. So here are some key definitions to things that they need to you need to understand, and they need to be able to do. They need to be able to blend, right? Draw individual phonemes, individual speech sounds together to produce a word, like snap. Blend it together, read snap. And they need to be able to do that and learn to do that themselves. So when they are decoding a word, that they can look at what I do it myself with a word I don't know. I'm trying to sound it out. What is this? How do I say this? What is this? What is the root word? Like, I do it as an adult. We want them to learn to do that, and to begin, got to begin with those individual speech sounds and how they blend together to make words. Digraphs, 2 letters that represent one speech sound, also a diphthong. So diphthong is the consonant version of it, and or actually diphthong is the one that has vowel in it. It's a vowel consonant, and digraph is just the consonant. So examples of digraphs and diphthongs are both sh, ch. So these 2 letters, these 2 graphemes, represent one phoneme, one speech sound. So a diphthong is a phoneme where the mouth glides from one vowel directly into another in the same syllable. Both vowels may be heard, but not quite making their usual sounds because of blending. So these include o, oi, ow, o. So getting the kids to be familiar with them and words that come in them, and that these groups, these silly vowels get together and they make funny noises sometimes based on their blending. The kids will remember forever if they're instructed early on and become familiar and proficient, and they're not afraid of seeing an O and an I together. It's not terrifying. Okay, well, that's a normal diphthong. Okay, so what are we doing here in this word, this new word that I'm working with? Trigraphs. Tri is 3, right? Di is 2. So a diphthong is 2 of these vowel sounds. Vowels making one sound. Trigraph is a single sound, but is represented by 3 letters. Example in the word match, the t sound at the end only makes one sound. Phoneme is the smallest unit of sound spoken in our language. So you'll see the individual phonemes that we blend in cat, k, at, cat. Grapheme is the written letter or group of letters that represent one speech sound. So this is a grapheme, even though it's 3 letters, the ch sound and that trigraph, that is a grapheme by itself, even though it has 3 letters in it. It is one part representing a speech sound. These are also graphemes, but these are graphemes because these are individual speech sounds. Snap. We don't say them individually, we blend them together for our language, snap. But they are there. And as a pre-communicative student, they might just have the S and the P, or the N and the P. And or they might have the S, N, and the P and not have the A there. Onset is the initial consonant or the consonant cluster, like sh. If I were to spell shut, sh. This is the onset. And the rhyme is the vowel or the vowel and consonants that follow the onset. So if I write shut, U and T is part of the rhyme. Onset is the sh, beginning sound. Ut is the rhyme. And a morpheme is the smallest meaningful unit of language. So ut doesn't mean anything and sh doesn't mean anything, but shut together does. So that's one morpheme. But if I put un or anti isn't a word, it's a morpheme. Un is a morpheme. It's a part, a word part that carries meaning by itself. A word part that carries meaning by itself. The phonemes don't carry meaning. You know, if I say buh, it doesn't mean anything. But if I say bat, which is a morpheme, and it means, you know, either a tool used to play baseball and or a flying rodent. I think they're rodents. I don't know if that, what are bats? I'm not sure. I'm gonna email this to you because I do have another session in just a little bit, but I would like for you to you know, make another session so we can go over a little bit more in detail some of these areas. We looked at this here earlier. Phoneme isolation, recognizing individual sounds in words, for example. Tell me the first sound and paste. Phoneme identity. So these are some of the skills that we do in phonological awareness. National Reading Panel identified 6 phonemic awareness tasks for assessment and instruction. We have to, oh, that's what it was. It was phoneme blending. That was the worksheet that my daughter brought home, and it was an assessment. And I thought it was really cool that she was assessing phoneme blending for new words. Phoneme categorization, the identity, the deletion, the segmentation, all of that needs to be assessed. We need to be gathering data on their ability and their skills in those areas to do specifically. It's all underneath under phonemic and phonological awareness. It's actually phonological awareness is the larger umbrella. Phonemic awareness is underneath it. Phonological awareness also includes their knowledge of the alphabetic principle, their knowledge of phonics, their knowledge of, we'll go into greater detail here. Oh, here's the common spell patterns, speech patterns for them. Syllabication, division, the different syllables, ways in which we can have them. Vowel, consonant, vowel. The break is here. Bonus. Snippet. Then you have vowel, consonant, vowel. Like here. Robin. Bonus. We have different ones. Let me see. Why is it not letting me see this? Let me see. What does it there? Hyperlink. Open hyperlink. Syllable games. Here we are. Phonological awareness strategies, blending and segmenting games, onset rhyme games, rhyming games. I'm gonna place this in your in the science of teaching reading. Syllabication activities. I'm just going to put STR activities, actually. STR activities. So you'll be able to access that. Link. I have a lot of really good stuff. Explicit, systematic, sequential. These are the ways in which we have to teach reading instruction. Has to be explicit, systematic, and sequential, which is why understanding those TEKS is really important for you to understand, like, in what order do we actually teach language? Like, what ways do we progress from kinder to first to second to third, etc. So, where did my PowerPoint go? Thick. Oh, my PowerPoint is open. Where is it? Oh, here it is. So I'm going to file, I'm going to share, send a PDF. And I'm going to just download this PDF. And I am going to put it in there for you to use in the drive. The reason I didn't want to is because I actually, okay, there we are. And so that is there. There's also, I utilize this one to explain the different areas: phonology, orthography, morphology, semantics, syntax, discourse, pragmatics. And I go through this PowerPoint in one of the videos on the YouTube channel. Oh, sorry. Choice is bad. Instead of saying that they chose the wrong audience, sorry about that. Let me look for science of teaching reading. Close that up. And so this was 2 weeks ago, and I did one like a couple of days ago. I haven't, like I said, I've been the mom to puppies, and so now I'm just all over the place. I don't even know who I am. And then with, Christmas, all that stuff, very, very crazy. This is the breakdown of the constructed response. how to teach sight words, proficiency levels, syllable game. There are some that are longer and that
Maybe
okay.
writing an
This
in-depth-
one is this one's a really deep dive in the writing portion where I go through all of the different
Okay, I
stuff.
know
We look at,
paragraph.
we
So
look
that
at
means wondering-
what is good about the highest level of example that they give us and what is really lacking from the ones that didn't meet the mark. And how, you know, how best to replicate that for ourselves. We spoke about it a little bit today, you know, with you going through and really sort of rough drafting or pre-writing. You don't even have to write an essay in essay form, but if you just, you know, make note of the different foundational reading skills and then jot down a description of not only what is that skill, and in particular, what is that skill, why is it important, but also what ways in which or what activity can you research on Printis or that other page that I sent you to really get them to engage in a playful way to get more mastery and practice with that weakness, with that foundational reading skill. It's a skill. They can build it, they can learn it. We just need to provide an opportunity in which they can do that. So I go into deep detail for this one, for the written portion here. Oh, and this one is the one I want to make sure that you watch, because we go into the, before you know, choose the strategies, because this is an exam that's meant to be difficult. Not only is the content itself a lot and challenging, they make it extra challenging. They make it tricky. You have to be a critical reader. This is every single one of the Texas exams is a critical reader. Read for what they're doing. Or is it an oral language proficiency thing? Is this a phonemic awareness thing? Is this a syllabication? Is this onset rhyme? Does this have to do with vowel consonant blending? What am I doing here? And what is the point? Like, what is the focus or goal for the teacher in the scenario? So mindfully read the scenario, question, and answers. The devil is in the detail. The devil and the devil, like the secret hiding right answer, is going to be sort of highlighted for you and obvious if you have read it carefully. And so we're looking at a pre-kindergarten teacher in this particular one. So it's very important to read choice. Make sure that the answer choice is in line with what keywords and phrases. So take a look at this. We go through it. I show the students how to utilize, you know, analysis skills to see what are they. Once you understand how they're trying to trick you with the language, it's very specific. They're telling you what they want for you to give them. An assets-based approach. What is assets? What is an assets-based approach? Very important that you know that, or that you're able to identify based on what's there, utilizing your own science of teaching reading or reading skills to figure out what is an assets-based approach. It's opposite, I'll give you a hint, of a deficits-based approach. I'm not coming to you as a deficits-based. I'm coming and utilizing an assets-based approach of reading instruction. What do my students currently have as assets? They're looking for something that best reflects that. For pre-kindergartners, there's a certain, you know, cognitive developmental way in which we deal with pre-kindergartners and first graders and second graders. So please go through these between now and the next time that we meet, and hopefully we can get you in to take the test again and you'll be successful next time. You will be prepared next time. I guarantee it.
All right, I'll definitely get into it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time on your holiday. You have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will see you again soon.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Yes, sir.